Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Making of Second Chance Heroes. This is the segment on the Hobo Colony. I'm lead level designer Eli Platt, and we are in the second mushroom level. 1152, or Wonchube Mines, Part 2. And this is perhaps one of my favorite levels in the whole game, because it's very geometrically interesting. So, the Wonchube Mines are where you're trying to find your way out. You're trying to save the hobo princess, or rather save her pet. You've gotten your way into the actual mine, which is more of a quarry, like an open mine rather than a cave mine. And here we are, and you can see it is quite dense with mushrooms. Alright, so let's jump into the walkthrough here. Alright, so starting in this room is the safe room where you head out. You're next to this sort of slime river. There's a nice little secret chest over here, and you can climb your way up onto this stack here and work your way across the top of these giant mushrooms, where you get a nice little overview of the mining operations and tracks and over the river, and you bounce around out to this other platform and then across these bridges to the tops of the giant mushrooms back over to here, and then across this scaffolding built into the wall over to this platform here. And here you fight the blood top along with a few trippers. You get a nice little arc overview of this lake here. There were some effects and things. We were going to have like the boss jump out of the water and back in, and we never actually ended up doing that, but it's still a nice little view where you've got this watchtower overlooking this sort of water runoff area like you would have in a real quarry. And so you come back over to some more extensive scaffolding, up to a set of mushrooms, and then back down, and you've finally now made your way to the floor. There's some hidden areas over here and a springboard that takes you way up top. There was once a springboard that took you all the way into the top of this tower and back, but that was cut out. There were some trajectory issues going that far and that high. And then over here, you head back in through the middle here, between the platform you were on earlier in the level and the mushrooms that you just came past, through this door and into the end where you fight the walrus boss. And that's pretty much all there is to this level, just a few little tangents. But, like I said, what makes this level, I think, really neat is all of the geometry involved and the views you get. And it's really, really asymmetrical, and you just get these fun walkways and this big 3D feeling. And there's all this going on down there, and there's all this contrast between the green slime and the colorful mushrooms and the platforms. So yeah, it's just, you get a nice, really cool overview, and it's just everywhere you go in this level, there's a view to look at. Like when you're coming out of here, you've got all of this slime and these mushrooms. You're coming up this ramp, you've got all of these lights and these platforms in this open area. And then you come up here, and you've got all of this interesting stuff below you, these carts and the river and the mushrooms. And then you come out here, and you've got this view of this boss area. And then again, you come back over and you're along the wall, and now you're up close next to the vines, and you see all the vines and the mushrooms, and then you're over here and you've got this big arch and these spires. And so, like I said, everywhere you go in this level, like even over here where you're on scaffolding again, it's different because this time there's scaffolding up above you, and you've got all of this lattices and boards underneath of you, and so on and so forth. And so it really is just, I think, as far as being visually impressive to the player, always giving them something really good to look at, I think it's very well designed. I mean, now we weren't calling for very exploratory, open levels when we built this particular level, and so it did ultimately wind up being a bit perhaps more linear than some of the other levels, but that wasn't really necessarily a concern because we weren't really making an open exploring game at that point, and ultimately didn't end up making an open exploratory game. And so I think that is pretty much alright then. But yeah, one of my favorite levels in the whole game. We do some more perspective camera angles. One of the things I actually do want to talk about in this level that has just struck me now that I remember is part of the way that we did these walls to make them all organic is we only have a few little models here. So you can see all those mushrooms that just lit up red are one model, and all these mushrooms that lit up red are one model. And same with like these caps are all the same model. And so what I did is I took and designed these little hex-shaped platforms, and then I designed contents for those platforms, and then I designed different wall mushroom layouts for those platforms, and then I ran it through some randomization to come up with all of these variants. And then once we had all the variants, because you could save groups, and then you could swap a group for another group. So once I put one hex in, I grouped the top, I grouped the walls, and then I was able to just randomly sort all of these different features into them after designing them on the side in like little test cases. And then I would go through by hand and say, oh, there's too many mushrooms here, or there's too many vines here, or these things are colliding in the wrong way, and just sort of nudged and fudged and adjusted everything until it looked very organic, like it does now, or at least as organic as it's pretty much going to get without spending an unreasonable amount of time on that visual space. And I really also wanted to kind of do like the quarry thing, so the sides of the level are these steps and these geometric shapes, because the hobos have been going in and carving that space out and making it theirs, and it's not a natural structure, but the mushrooms are a natural resource. And so it's, you could almost think, well, maybe this is where they mined out to get all their stone to build their castles and things, and maybe, you know, the fact that that was used as a subway is the other way around, and then I really like the idea of having a quarry, because it leaves the life of the hobos open to interpretation, where it's like it's a quarry, but now it's like a food resource where they're growing these mushrooms in this space, and it's sort of a recycled space. Because that's the thing about the hobos, and I've been saying in a few other videos, is they recycle. They're intuitive, or they're not intuitive, but well, they could be intuitive, but they are very good at improvising and reusing space and efficient. And so, like, yeah, it's a giant junk heap underground in a big open cavern, but it's also a quarry, and it's also a mushroom farm, and it's like just lends to their lifestyle. And that's one of the things I think that also make it a good level, is it really fits into the lore of the game. Alright, well, I think that about wraps things up for 1252, also known as Wonchube Mines Part 2. We're headed into the last levels of the Hobo Colony up next, where we've got all kinds of castles and other goodness. Alright, I will see you next time.